House Committee on General Laws will come to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Trent. Here. Vice Chair Riley. Here. Representatives Meredith. Here. Boggs. Brown. Here. Davidson. Here. Hardwick. Hurlburt. Here. Ingle. Here. Pollitt. Here. Rogers. Schnelting. Schroer. Here. Schwadron. Here. Sharp. Weber.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to switch up our order a little bit here. We're going to begin this evening with public hearing for House Bill 2595. Representative Shields, please come forward. You may proceed when ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. It's nice to see you again this week. I am Representative Brenda Shields. I represent District 11 in Northwest Missouri. Today, I'd like to present House Bill 2595. It's a bill pertaining to tax credits for medical education-related preceptors. Medical preceptors are mentors for medical students or physician assistants in their final 2 years of their medical education. The goal of a preceptor is to provide experience for students in their last 2 years of medical school so they can decide on a specialty. Though incredibly important, recruiting medical preceptors is difficult. It requires a preceptor to take time away from their practice. And although rewarding, teaching is truly time-consuming. So now I want you to imagine a small family medical practice, maybe in the rural area where a physician's schedule is full because there's a lack of providers in the area. The physician wants to share their passion for family medicine, but the economics are very challenging. Physicians from across the state know these challenges, and today I present a solution presented to me by the physicians of the state. Physicians and physician assistants want to fund a tax credit program for their fellow physicians who will provide preceptorships. Some preceptors receive payment for their work, but most do not. So to encourage physicians to be a preceptor, this legislation will allow a physician a tax credit of $1,000 for every 120-hour preceptor they provide. And they can do a maximum of 3 preceptors in a year for a total tax credit of $3,000. To qualify for a tax credit, a physician cannot receive any compensation for their preceptorship. The best part about this is the physicians and the physician assistants are willing to fund this tax credit by increasing their annual licensing fee by $7 for physicians and $3 for physician assistants. This increase will allow for approximately 200 preceptors a year. This program won't cost the state. It'll increase the number of preceptorships in the state, and the physicians want it. I think it sounds like a win for all. So I'd like to end tonight with a quote from a student provided to me. Having grown up in a densely populated metropolitan area, like many of my classmates, I have never had the opportunity to experience the practice of medicine in a small community setting. Being exposed to rural medicine in Missouri and working with physician preceptors awoke in me a strong desire to not only practice family medicine one day, but also seek an opportunity to practice and serve in rural or underserved communities. This epiphany would not have been possible without witnessing the immense passion, love for teaching, and genuine care for their respective communities evidenced by my physician preceptors. As a student, working with a preceptor to directly serve patients is an indescribably valuable learning experience and has imprinted in me a heart to serve people in the way my preceptor served and to follow their example, inspiring others to do the same. This bill last year passed the House 146-4. It was added to one of our mega bills at the end of the session, passed through the Senate, came back to us, and didn't quite make it across the finish line. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Questions for the bill sponsor from the committee? Seeing none.
Thank you. I will say that next week you will have a House committee substitute. Since we have written the bill, and we did some finessing on the bill from last year to change a few things, and we need to define 3 different things in here. We're not going to use the board. We're going to put in the division, so with the agreement of everybody. So you will see a House committee substitute next week with 3 small changes. I'll be happy to go over those with you next week. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I will let my witnesses proceed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Witnesses here to testify in support. Please come forward. Make sure you filled out a witness card and may proceed when ready.
All right, well, thank you, members of the General Laws Committee. My name is Dr. Christopher Painter, and I am a family doctor with SSM Health here in Tipton, Missouri. I speak in favor of House Bill 2595, and I also represent the Missouri Society of American College of Osteopathic Family Physicians, Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons, and the Missouri Academy of Family Physicians. Now, I recognize that all of us have been in a situation where we probably have seen a doctor, and the frustration many of us may have faced is that we may be told we can't be seen right away, or maybe it'll be weeks from now, months from now. And on the other side, for SSM, it is a struggle for us to be able to not only recruit, but also for retention in this area. In Missouri, we have 2 osteopathic medical schools, 3 if you count Joplin as separate, and 4 allopathic medical schools. Each year, we graduate approximately 1,000 students, with only about 21% staying in Missouri. We already know that doctors are going to practice where they're from or where they train. And in my case, I grew up in Eldon, Missouri, which is not that far from here if you don't know. So according to the Health Resources and Service Administration, Missouri is ranked 9th in medically underserved areas and populations and 4th in health provider shortage areas, with number 1 being California. And they have a population of 252.7 per square mile, whereas Missouri we have 89.5. And that's according to the 2020 census data. There was an old study from University of Missouri showed that actually taking on students would increase your workload by 52 minutes a day and lower your productivity from 3.9 to 3.3 per hour. Now, medical schools will tell you the opposite when they're trying to get you to be a preceptor, but I assure you that in my experience of being a preceptor before, if I take the time and do it right and prepare my student, listen to their story after they see a patient, give feedback, watch them struggle with procedures, it's going to take some time, and that time I could easily see a lot more patients. I don't say that to discredit what I'm doing. It's just that I bring that to your attention to understand that there are major sacrifices that physicians make when they are taking on a student, especially in a time where we're expected to see more and more patients in a day. So I'm proud to say that SSM Health will be beginning a partnership with Kansas City University to begin core sites for 3rd and 4th year students, and with the hopes of developing a family medicine residency program in the future. When I came to this area in 2015, I understood it was my responsibility to take care of the people in my community, which is why I'll be the regional dean for Kansas City University. And so this bill, because of that, it doesn't benefit me whatsoever financially, but it's still something I find very important to ensure that when I ask others to become preceptors, to take on my students, that they'll more likely be able to have a good experience, learn about the community that they are in, and hopefully stay and love the area that they're in as well. But I need more help. Obviously, we need a lot more doctors willing to come here and stay. And that's not something I can do alone. And so I encourage you to consider passing and moving forward with House Bill 2595, and especially in a time where we're already short-staffed, we're already burnt out, and passing this can make a big difference in understanding that you hear the frustrations and we're willing to do your part in moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that testimony and for your time here this evening. Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for being here. Other witnesses to testify in support. House Bill 2595.
Good evening. My name is John Paulson. I'm a family physician. I actually am the board chair of the Missouri Academy of Family Physicians. I'm also the chair of primary care for Kansas City University, who I also represent, and then I work at a federally qualified health center in Joplin, Missouri, and they also share the same opinion and support this House bill. In medical school, the first 2 years, it's book work, and the students memorize as much as they can and learn as much as they can in lab. The second 2 years is when they're out with preceptors. It's a very formative time. They actually get to see medicine. They get their hands dirty. They get to see the front lines of COVID and anything and everything we experience. And this is really speaks that the physicians and PAs of the state are really brought this to Representative Shields, and she's partnered to share our enthusiasm about this. you don't see less patients when you're in rural. I've been a preceptor for probably a decade in various places, Houston, Missouri, Licking, Missouri, Joplin, Missouri. I didn't see less patients because there wasn't anyone else to see them there. You just took away time from your family. This is not a lot of money for the preceptors. It's a token of appreciation because we know they're all going to do the best that they can do because this is our future. It's your future, your kids' future. Hopefully they'll take good care of us at some point in time. I don't know what else to say because, it's just we need our preceptors. And even at the medical school, we pay our preceptors. And from my understanding, we pay a lot better than this tax credit. But still, we're all in support of this and hope that you are too.
Thank you for that testimony and for your time here this evening as well. Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for being here. Other witnesses to testify in support, please come forward. Make sure you filled out a witness card and proceed when ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Doherty. I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Missouri. I'm here on behalf of Missouri Academy of Family Physicians, and I'm here to support House Bill 2595. So just a little bit more about me. So I'm an active participant in the Rural Track Pipeline program at Mizzou, meaning that I've worked with preceptors from across the state of Missouri throughout my clinical training at Mizzou, but they've received $0 for teaching me. Also important, I plan to practice rural family medicine after I complete my residency, and I hope to stay in Missouri. And I want to share some personal stories from my clinical training in hopes that I can show you how important my preceptors have been on my journey to becoming a physician. So one Thursday night, I'm in Macon, Missouri. I've got a chicken breast in front of me, some suture in my hand, and some scissors. It's 6 p.m. The physician I'm working with is tired, and she's hungry, and her kiddo is homesick. But she was there with me. She was teaching me how to suture so that I could beautifully stitch up this chicken breast so that one day when I'm suturing on a patient, it can look nice and they don't have a bad scar. And, that just really went a long way with me. Like, they're spending their time, they're paying money to have childcare so that they can teach me. And then flash forward a few months later, I'm in Cape Girardeau. It's a Saturday morning. The physician I'm working with stays late. He's teaching me about small bowel obstruction and how I can care for patients who have this problem. And he could have easily left for the day, went home, started his weekend with his family. But instead, he stayed to teach me. And another important lesson that he taught me that maybe wasn't medical per se, but we were walking to our cars, and he said, just always remember that you're human. You aren't better than your patients, and you should always treat them like people. And these are just two examples. I've been blessed to have so many community preceptors from across the state of Missouri. They've taught me so much about medicine and life, and they were compensated $0 for this. They spent more money on childcare, like I said, so they could spend those extra hours with me. And I cannot describe how invaluable my clinical rotations with these community preceptors have been. And training in rural areas absolutely solidified my passion for rural medicine and made me completely sure that I wish to practice medicine in rural Missouri in the future. And I wish I could find even the smallest way to repay my physician preceptors for all they've taught me. And I think this bill would help do that. I will be a better rural physician because of my community preceptors, and if Missouri is going to continue to produce outstanding young physicians, more community preceptors are needed. I truly believe the preceptor workforce program will provide Missouri with the teachers the state needs to continue to produce outstanding physicians and physician assistants our citizens deserve. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Yes, Representative Pollitt, please proceed.
Shameless plugs. Today would be a great place to practice rural medicine.
Yes, it would. Thank you.
Other questions for this witness? Other suggestions? Seeing none. Thank you again for being here this evening. Other witnesses testify in support. House Bill 2595. Please proceed when ready.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Genevieve Del Rosario. I have been a physician assistant for 20 years. I've been a faculty member at the St. Louis University PA program for 14 years and a preceptor for about a decade. This Friday, about the same time y'all might be having lunch, a neurosurgeon in Kansas City is going to saw my mom's head open. They're going to saw it open her skull, try to take out the tumor that's sitting right here. If all goes well, put the skull back on. And then I'll spend the night in the ICU, praying that 1, my mom wakes up the next day, and 2, if she does wake up the next day, she's still my mom. Now, I'm really lucky. I've been doing this education gig for a while, and so I know a lot of people. So I contacted one of our graduates who works in neurosurgery in Kansas City, and I said, hey, who should she see? She recommended someone. He was great. I'm confident we're in good hands. But I also know exactly what it takes to make his hands as good as they are. I know the hours and time not one, but many physicians and other clinicians took in his training so that we could have that confidence. I know the timing and the training it took for the primary care physician who saw my mom to say, hey, something's not right in her small town. I see this because I'm a preceptor myself. I work once a week in clinic, and I work with 2 nurse practitioners who are great. We do the same work, same number of patients, and they leave every Thursday about 4:30. I leave every Thursday. They don't have students. I leave every Thursday at about 6:30, and that's fine. It's literally my job. I love it. It's what I signed up to do, and honestly, it's a good chance to make my husband cook dinner that night. But our community preceptors didn't sign up for this, right? And it's not built into their day. It's not part of their daily work. It's just an extra responsibility in a life that has become all too stressful. Because of this, in Missouri and nationwide, we are seeing a tremendous shortage of preceptors. I've seen physicians, I've seen PA programs, I've seen nurse practitioner programs, I've seen allied health professionals struggling to find enough people to teach their students well. You know, when our kids go and break a bone, when our spouse has pneumonia or a heart attack, when our parents were juggling the end of their lives, we want to know that those clinicians had the best training. And we want to know that that is true whether it is in St. Louis or Tipton or Hayti or anywhere else in Missouri. This money is a small amount, but it looks at these clinicians and say, hey, we see you. We see that you are going farther in a time when everyone's burnt out, and frankly, we need those clinicians in rural areas more than ever. We see you, we want to honor you and thank you for helping to train this next generation so that when we go to the hospital or our families go to the hospital, we know that those Missouri clinicians got the best training possible. Thank you.
Thank you for that testimony and for being with us this evening. Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for being here. Other witnesses in support, please proceed when ready.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Wells, and I'm currently a PA student at St. Louis University. And I'm here to support the clinical preceptorship. And I just want to kind of give a background of how impactful they've been for me. So the PA program that I'm at is 27 months long. 15 of those months is didactic, learning from textbooks, taking tests, and the next 12 months are actually working in the field. And it's a tough transition learning to teach or learning to study for a test versus to actually work with patients. And it's been those clinical preceptors who have helped guide me through that transition. Preceptors are the extension between classroom and the real world. They provide that safe environment and a controlled environment to make mistakes, and not only make mistakes, but to provide the feedback, the encouragement, and the guidance to learn from those mistakes. They teach me how to think critically, how to solve complex problems, and ultimately they provide me the tools to be a successful healthcare provider. What I admire most about the preceptors is that they take pride in teaching. The majority of them are volunteers. They're not getting paid anything, yet they're staying later than all their colleagues. They have increased time and energy teaching us, and ultimately their priority is our education at the expense and productivity of their own clinic. Unfortunately, it's difficult to find preceptors right now, especially in rural areas. Our school requires us to have at least one rotation in a rural area, and some of my classmates are either not having any because we can't find any preceptors, or they're canceling last minute. And whether if that's due to the inherent pandemic concern or the increased commitment, preceptors are needed in the medical community. Personally, I think they're ultimately the bridge of knowledge between this future of generation of healthcare providers and future generations to come. And I can't thank them enough for how much they've impacted my education and success and continue to be when I graduate in December. And I hope one day to be able to be a preceptor and be a role model for the future of healthcare providers. I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your time and for being here and providing that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again. Other witnesses here to testify in support? Please come forward, make sure you filled out your witness card, and proceed when ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm Heidi Geis-Bueller-Sutherland here on behalf of the Missouri State Medical Association. We also want to go on record in support of the bill, and just to add that our members are happy to pay the additional $7 to their licensure fee in order to make it happen.
Thank you for that testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Other witnesses here in support? Please proceed when ready.
I'd like to thank the committee for having us here tonight. My name is John Burrows. I'm president of the Missouri Academy of Family Practice, but here tonight I'm here on behalf of a suburban small practice, family practice doctor. I've been a part of a two-person practice in Liberty for 20 years. I married into the state of Missouri, but I precepted into family practice back in my medical school in North Carolina. I was able to spend a summer working with a small town family practice doc, the ultimate town doctor, about an hour west of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Spent time with his family, spent time in his practice, and after that summer, I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a family doc, and my sole purpose looking for practice when I moved to Missouri was to find out how I could replicate what he had as close as I could, and I hope for 20 years we did a pretty good job of it. So with that, I wanted to continue to teach. I was hoping to let students feel the passion that I felt when I was in medical school and got to spend that time. And so I've taken 4 to 5 students, mainly medical students, but we've had nurse practitioner students, PA students, also had a few just high school students who've come and spent time in the office. It was in a 2-person practice. My partner was not a big fan. He reminded me about every time I had someone out looking at those productivity numbers at the end of the month. And I said, that's okay. That's okay. This is part of why I want to be a doctor. I want to teach, and I want people to become doctors too. Over the past 20 years, being a small practice was more and more difficult. I tell people all the time, 15 years ago, I would see 25 to 30 patients a day in the office. I would see 5 to 10 in the hospital. As a medical director of a nursing home, part-time medical director of a hospice group, and I had 4 kids and coached 2 soccer teams. And I had a lot more time on my hands than I have the last 4 to 5 years, seeing 15 to 20 patients and wondering how I'm going to get everything done before midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning. Seeing students makes the job worthwhile, but it also makes the job very difficult. And it makes making ends meet with the 2-person practice very difficult when those patients I don't see comes out of my pocket, comes out of my partner's pocket, and it makes it difficult as we try to give a quality of life to our staff as well with that. I love being a family practitioner. I love trying to find other people to find the same passion that I do, and a bill such as this, funded by us, would be a wonderful way just to maybe get a few more people doing the same thing. Once I talked with the folks at UMKC about being a preceptor, I felt that I had just joined the volunteer group at a church, and I was called every month to see if they could, because they don't have enough people that are able to take that time, or just not allowed to in their company to spend the time to see students. And so thank you for considering this. I think it will make a big difference.
Thank you for being here and for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again. Other witnesses testify in support? Please proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stephen Nittler. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. Just want to go on record in support of House Bill 2595.
Thank you for being here. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Other witnesses testify in support. Please come forward and proceed when ready. Thank you for being here. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Other witnesses testify in support. House Bill 2595. Seeing none, are any witnesses here testifying in opposition to House Bill 2595? Seeing none, and why would there be after such a fine slate of witnesses? I commend the bill sponsor for putting together such a great lineup for us tonight. Any witnesses here to testify for informational purposes only? House Bill 2595. Seeing none, that will conclude the public hearing for House Bill 2595. All right, I now move that we go into executive session, and we will begin with House Bill 1490. This is Representative Porter's Charitable Organizations Report Bill. I move that the committee vote do pass House Bill 1490. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Trent.
Aye.
Vice Chair Riley. Aye. Representatives Meredith. Boggs. Aye. Brown. Aye. Davidson. Aye. Hardwick. Hurlbert. Aye. Engel. No. Pollitt. Aye. Rogers. Aye. Schnelting. Schroer. Schwandren. Aye. Sharp. And Weber. No.
By your vote of 9 ayes and 3 noes, you have voted do pass House Bill 1490. We are still waiting on an amendment that's being drafted for House Bill 1613, so the committee will stand at ease for a few moments while we wait for that to be completed. All right, the House Committee on General Laws will resume executive session. We have now distributed the desired amendment. First, I'll make the motion that we vote do pass House Bill 1613. If everyone will recall, this is a civil asset forfeiture bill by Representative Lovasco. I have an amendment. It ends in .02H. It has now been distributed, and I move for its adoption. What this amendment will do is drop the $100,000 threshold down to $50,000, and will require a notice be given to any individual who has their property taken. Give them details on how they can contest that decision and recover their property if it has been wrongfully taken. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll also note we have the bill sponsor in the room, and if you have questions, he can answer them as well. Discussion on House Committee Amendment number 1. Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting House Committee Amendment number 1 to House Bill 1613, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And the ayes have it. You have adopted House Committee Amendment number 1. I now move that we, or further discussion on House Bill 1613. Seeing none, I now move that we roll the adopted amendment into House Committee substitute and adopt the House Committee substitute. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting House Committee substitute House Bill 1613, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And the ayes have it. You have adopted the House Committee substitute. Further discussion on House Committee substitute for House Bill 1613. Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Trent.
Aye.
Vice Chair Riley.
Aye.
Representatives Meredith. Aye. Boggs.
Aye.
Brown. Aye. Davidson. Aye. Hardwick. Hurlburt. Aye. Engel. Pollitt. Aye. Rogers. Aye. Schnelting. Schroer. Schwadron. Aye. Sharp. Weber.
By your vote of 12 ayes and 0 noes, you have adopted you have voted do pass House Committee substitute for House Bill 1613. We will not be executing on House Bill 1611. The bill sponsor has requested more time on that bill. And with that, all business is concluded before the House General Laws Committee, and we are adjourned.